Hey. 2 more stories from Malicious Compliance. One deals with a boss who tries to strong-arm his workers into signing bad contracts. The second deals with a couple of lifeguards who are treated poorly. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This story is titled, Boss Presents a Crappy Contract and Says I Can Quit If I Don't Want to Sign, So I Do. I want to mention right away that I posted this on another sub, but it was removed because it didn't fit the rules. I've added some details to this post that I hadn't earlier because I didn't think they were relevant to that sub. With that out of the way, let's get into it. I used to work for a local youth center, kind of. I won't name them. The story goes like this: the man who ran the center knew a friend of my family, who told him I was going to college for graphic design and video. He calls me and lets me know that under the umbrella of the youth center he wanted to revive an old local magazine and wanted it to be run by youth. I was 18. He said that as well as a physical magazine, there was going to be a video component that would go on YouTube and the website, and that I would be a great fit for the team to help with this. He also said that they would assist in getting all participating youth started towards their own business. I was thinking, wow, I'll have a job right out of college, this is great. I was promised on-the-job training, an eventual pay increase to $18 per hour, and a lot of other stuff. I started at $14 per hour. I won't go into every detail, but basically, I was told that I was to write articles for the magazine as well, as all employees would do this. No problem. Slowly but surely, we built a small team. I recommended a friend from college, who would eventually become the editor. Let's call her editor. Another person who would become my friend was hired and edited a lot of videos I worked on. We'll call him director, and there was also a sound technician, named Rapper. There were other employees as well, but the 4 of us were the main magazine crew. The rest helped but mostly worked at the youth center for youth reasons. Now that I've explained that, we can get into it. Over the course of my employment, a lot of shady things happened. The center claimed that they would help us start our own businesses, and we should get business licenses and they would contract us. In reality, this was a way for them to avoid paying taxes and making us do it instead. As well, there were a lot of make a video about blank orders, but no instructions until the finished video was handed in. We did stories on a lot of cultural topics, so this could be really difficult at times. On top of that, the boss was almost never there, so when we had questions, we basically had to figure things out ourselves. Despite all of this, I was loyal. I worked there for 2 years, and I'm confident that I was a major reason we were going for a while, because whenever somebody messed something up in video, I was the one that came to fix it. Sometimes with hours left to deadline. I filmed almost all events we covered. I knew where all of the files were for everything, the passwords, and a lot more. People asked me about all of these things when they forgot. I also managed the YouTube page all by myself. But for whatever reason, the boss started to trust us less and less. Locks were changed on the doors so none of our keys worked. Director and I were placed in an office where somebody was constantly watching us. Our time cards were argued about. And we were accused of only playing video games while at work. We played our switches at lunch. I think he had trust issues because he's a sketchy person. He had the kind of fake being friends with everybody in case you need a favor view on life. Director and I started to be blamed for bad camera framing when we weren't even at the shoot. This got to the point where we were told to take extra training, but editor, who was mostly responsible for these mistakes, was treated like a queen. Even if I complained about something editor had done, nothing would ever come of it. Then comes December 2018. Boss calls a meeting. He tells us all that the magazine will be transitioning into its own business separate from the youth center. Here, on top of video and writing duties, we will be searching for contracts, and driving to other cities in our province to film. He then proceeds to hand us a contract that we're required to sign if we continue to work for him. This contract sucks. There were a lot of things in there that would screw us over, but the main things were that while working for them we wouldn't be allowed to conduct our own contracts, and if we quit, we can't work in our field in any of the whole province for 6 months. On top of that, our job titles would be changed to interns and our pay would stay the same even though we were promised $18 per hour. Literally all of us were mad about this contract, but whenever we brought up problems, he would say, this is non-negotiable. It's a perfectly normal contract. He also accused me of trying to find loopholes whenever I tried to discuss it. I have no idea about contracts, but if you're claiming to start youth up on their own businesses, this is not how you do it. He let us know that to aid with the transfer to a new business he was in talks for a new contract worth a lot of money. But didn't disclose how much. Probably so we wouldn't feel entitled to be paid for more doing all the work. He gave us a week to look at the contract. After that there would be 1 week until Christmas. I spent all of the week dreading the next Monday when I had to make a decision. I begged the boss to change it, but he stood firm. He even indicated that if we weren't happy with it, we might as well quit. This is important. Then, on the Friday evening, I noticed that my job is listed on a job board. I'm shocked. I check Facebook, the magazine website, and everything. My passwords are removed. I have no login. He is trying to strong-arm me into signing. Then on Monday my girlfriend and I get breakfast before I go in, when I get a text from director letting me know he got fired upon walking into the building. My gears start to turn in my head. If he fired director, then he's definitely counting on having me to do all of the work still. I know that I won't get fired because I'm the only person capable of making videos properly. So instead of going to work, my girlfriend and I type up a letter of resignation, walk over to Staples and print it out, and bring it over to work. Before I give it to him, he greets me and lets me know that he fired director. The casual way he talks to me about it confirms he expects me to stay. But he did this to himself by listing my job, and arrogantly stating that we should quit if we didn't like the contract. So, I hand him an envelope which has my letter in it. What's this? Aqualink 97. My letter of resignation. He is shocked but accepts. I think in that moment he finally realized that his actions have consequences. Then he walks inside. I say goodbye to everybody, hugs all around, pack up my stuff, then find him crying in the sound room. I talk to director later, and he tells me that his mom was connected to boss's huge paying contract, and that he actually hadn't had the contract yet. Director's mom was really upset, and since they hadn't signed anything, yet she pulled some strings and got director the contract instead. Turns out it was worth something like $60,000. So basically, the boss tried to strong-arm us into signing a crappy contract, then lost the only competent employee, and a $60,000 contract. Editor and rapper eventually quit too. Rapper decided to focus on his music career and is doing pretty well for himself. I worked video contracts for a while until I got a full-time job again. So, as a result of all of his crappiness, and overall arrogance, boss no longer has enough money to print an actual magazine, is short-staffed, constantly going through new employees who always end up quitting, and rarely upload videos. Their videos have crappy titles too, like the title of the camera footage, and rarely have edited thumbnails. I think it's safe to say we destroyed his ambition of starting a business exploiting youth talent. Right before Christmas. And just to be clear, even though I had the effects that my quitting would have on him in mind, I also knew that the youth center was funded separately from us, so we didn't ruin any poor kids' lives. This story is titled, You Don't Want to Be a Lifeguard. Leave then. This story comes from the last time I 22 male was a lifeguard. I was 19 at the time, and I had worked for the same pool company for 2 summers before this, so I was finally getting promoted to assistant manager, so the pay was better. However, the company moved me from my nicer, modern pool, to a pool that's so old, it's actually a historical landmark for my town. It was made in the 1950s. Let me tell you, this pool was awful. It had no consistent working filtration system, the wiring for the pumps was shorty and sometimes gave us a shock. And there was a sinkhole to be underneath the kiddie pool. It would be almost empty every morning I came in. To make matters worse, this hell pool usually takes 4 guards to maintain, but this year to cut corners, they assigned 2. Me and my manager, 19 male, let's call him Chris, put up with this for a while. We'd have to come in early and stay late to take care of this monstrosity, which was recommended to us by the president of the pool board, not the pool company. The pool board hires the company to guard and care for the pool. The president, I'm going to call him Kevin, it's fitting, was a hard ass, but as long as we did what he said, he'd be quiet. However, after 3 or so weeks, Chris and I realized our extra work wasn't being paid for anymore. The pool company owner Karen told us that the extra work was not approved, even though Kevin told us to work the extra time. We agreed, and never worked any extra time. Regular patrons understood this new dynamic. We get there when the pool time opens, and the moment the pool is closed, they've got to go. Kevin, however, hated this. He and his pool board got so angry at us, he threatened to fire us. When we brought this up to our company, who we thought would defend us, Karen said, that's the pool board, we don't control them, if you don't like it then leave. So, we decided to do just that. Chris and I went to work the next day, knowing it would be our last at that pool. We said our goodbyes to the nice patrons, and come close, Kevin was irate again. We didn't listen to him as we closed up, and again he threatened to fire us. We respond, you can't fire us if we quit, dropped the keys at his feet, and walked out. Chris and I then both wrote emails to Karen, giving her our 2 weeks' notice. For over the past 3 years of working there, they haven't been so kind to us. The next morning, both Chris and I received phone calls asking us to come in together, as we were the only 2 people working at that pool. We show up to the office expecting to be chewed out, but instead Karen begged us to stay, and offered us both manager positions at any pool we wanted next year. Chris and I looked at each other with a grin, as I turned back to her and say, we didn't like it, so we're leaving, and walked out the door. Afterwards, we got pizza and joked about how awful that company was and how we'd never work for them again. Spoiler, Chris caved and worked for them for the next 3 years. But giving both Karen and Kevin that mic drop moment still makes me smile to this day. Thank you so very much for listening. Please check out my other videos and like and subscribe.